Hello everyone, welcome to the Fisher Group Real Estate channel. Today we're so excited to invite Miguel come to our channel talking about building your custom home. So what are the main factors that affect the overall cost of building custom home?
Well, obviously the size of the home.
The size of
the home, right?
Yeah.
And then just sort of like, I won't call them unique features, but there's things like saunas and theater rooms and wine cellars, a little more specialty kind of features that on its own do drive up cost. There is, most homes now are becoming smart homes.
Yeah.
So the level of automation can vary significantly. So if you want to be able to do everything from your fingertips, that comes with a pretty big price tag versus if you want to do just a handful of things. And then the exterior. Exterior is the biggest cost driver because stone, natural stone, specifically limestone, is extremely expensive. And on the other extreme, stucco is the least expensive. So I find a lot of clients, when they engage me after they've done the design, and a lot of homes are in the design are all stone. And then when you kind of break down the cost, they start going through a really thorough budgeting exercise. They're like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of money.
We should stucco.
Right? So you start kind of exploring different options, and it's usually a hybrid, right? Because obviously you want the front elevation. You want curb appeal, right?
Sure.
So your front elevation is the most critical. You want that to look great. And again, it doesn't have to all be stone. I mean, there's different combinations of finished materials that will look good. But as you start getting into the sides of the house and to the rear, you can start reducing, going with building materials that are a little more cost effective because very few people are going to see it, right?
And you mentioned some unique features for home. So in your idea, what kind of features have most cost return? It's like worth to do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, again, they're all sort of equal. I wouldn't say there's one in specific. I think at the end of the day, maximizing your space makes the most sense. Like, you don't want to go to some people really love home theaters. Other people will be like, I'll never use that in my life, right? Or I'll use that once a year. So everyone has a different value system. Does it hurt the resale of the value of the house? I don't think so. But if you're not using it on a regular basis, then why invest tens of thousands in a theater, right? Use that money somewhere else. So it really just depends on, again, if they're going to get use out of it, by all means, invest in that area because somebody else might see the same value down the road. But if you're doing it and you're not going to use it often, then just save those funds and use them somewhere else.
So when we go to a custom built home, we saw some good features. For example, like the rooms under the parking, under the garage, or sunk backyard. You walk up and big sunk area. So it's something that's worth to do that or not?
I would say a walkout basement is probably the best use of funds because it's when you're in a basement, when you have a walkout, it doesn't feel like you're in a basement.
True.
So you're just adding another floor to your house. You're adding, a couple thousand square feet of living space that people feel comfortable in regardless of the time of day and time of year. Versus, when you only have small windows in your basement, it kind of always feels gloomy, right? So a walkout just really opens it up. So I think, if there's one, I'll call it specialty feature that I would recommend, that'd be the one to invest in.
Okay, So regarding the cost, I think the number one question I always get, Fisher, what do you think? What's the cost per square foot?
Right.
Do you have any idea about
it? Well, that's always a tough one to answer because there's so many variables, right? So it depends on level of finishes, like some of those specialty rooms we talked about, right? Depends on the neighborhood. Some neighborhoods command higher end finishes, right? So in Southeast Oakville, you might want to go with a lot of limestone on the exterior because it
Yeah.
kind of keeps up with the neighborhood. Whereas in Southwest Oakville, you might go with man-made stone. Right?
Okay.
So, but realistically, nowadays, this is a big range, but it's anywhere between $400 to $500.
Okay, between 400 to 500
Yeah,
per square feet.
and obviously it can go significantly more than 500 depending on luxury features, but that's always a good. 450 is a good number to budget.
Okay.
You can certainly do it less.
Yeah.
I don't think you could do it less than 400. You'd be hard pressed to do that, but yeah, so that's a good range. I always tell people budget 450. But in going through a budgeting exercise, like it's really important as a builder to make sure you have a good sense of expectations from your clients in terms of the level of finishes that they're looking for, because you want to provide a budget that aligns with their expectations, right?
Yes. So you're talking about the cost. Sometimes it maybe depends on the neighborhood. You don't want to spend 600 per square foot in some areas, right?
Right.
And in some high-end area, you don't want to spend like less than 400 per square foot.
Right.
So how the homeowners set real estate like a budget for their custom home project?
Yeah, well, so to set a realistic budget, the most important thing, there's probably two things, but the most important thing is know more or less what you want to build. The caliber of home.
Can you repeat? No more less.
Know the caliber of home you want to build.
Okay.
Understand, the size.
Yeah.
And the level of finishes you'd like to see in your home, right? And the way to do this is to, go with your realtor, visit a lot of open houses, look at houses that newly built houses that are on the market, because then you're going to get a feel for what you want, what you're comfortable with, what you like.
Yeah.
And then when you communicate that to your builder, they'll be able to provide you with a realistic budget.
Right.
And then always encourage your builder and ask your builder to just walk you through some of their projects that are that they're working on, because then you'll be able to get a sense of what those finishes are.
Right.
And your builder will know what those costs are. So when they're pulling together the budget for you, you'll be able to have a real good, accurate view of it.
Sometimes, like, I have some buyers asking me the question, hey Fisher, so same street, both are custom built home. Why this one only 3 million, another one asking 3.6 million? It's like, sometimes it's really hard to explain.
Sure, it is, but if you've walked through both, usually you can see why there's a big difference, right? Again, a lot of clients invest in the quality finishes, and not everybody necessarily appreciates it. Like, for example, one of the features that is very common is heated flooring throughout the house, or at least in the basement, right? So that's a feature, that comes with a price tag. It's in the tens of thousands of dollars. It adds to the comfort of the house, but you don't necessarily see it, doesn't, right? But when you live in it, you appreciate it, right? So, understanding, and then smart home automation is another good example, right? Because those are all things behind the scenes that you can't necessarily feel and observe in the moment, but when you're living there and you're experiencing it, you see the value of it, right?
True.
So it's not like a kitchen. A kitchen,
everything
certain
you use
size,
it,
you're going to use it. You can compare this kitchen to that kitchen, and easily, right? But there's other features that are, valuable that you might not necessarily appreciate right off the bat.
Like heated driveway.
Heated driveway, exactly. Things like that. So, but when you live there, you'll appreciate it, right?
True. Yeah.
So, there's a series of factors, and then even just on the quality of the workmanship. Generally, you can. If a house is priced cheaper, there's usually a reason why.
Okay, I have like clients when they build a home, so the budget maybe, let's say 3,000 square foot house, budget maybe 1.2 million. But after finish, he did a calculation. Hey, Fisher spent 1.4 million.
Right.
Yes. Do you have any tips for the clients how to control the cost?
I see that happen all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
And there's a couple of reasons why it happens. One of it is just clients they don't want to compromise as much. They're building a custom home.
Yeah.
They say, you know what? If I spend $5,000 more on this feature, it's going to look way nicer. They're willing to spend a little bit more and compromise a little less because they're like, what's an extra $2,000 for this? And then what's an extra 5,000 for that? But then it all adds up, right?
Yeah.
When you're making decisions in isolation, a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there,
Yeah.
it starts adding up at the end of it.
True.
The other factor, and this is really important, I think I touched on this earlier, is just timely decisions. If you make your decisions well ahead of time, then you have the ability to go out, shop around, find the best deals, especially for building materials.
Yeah.
And even for trades. If you start, you pick a trade, pick a framer, I want to work with this guy, you schedule him in, you make that decision early on, then you're good. Whereas if you start making decisions late, then you're sort of at the mercy of what's available
Yes.
when you need it, right? So sometimes you pay more.
No
for
available. Yeah.
not available, right? So if you make decisions early on, then it just gives you a lot more flexibility. And if you change your mind, you're not paying for it. You
True.
still have time to change your mind. Whereas sometimes we're already in the middle of a process, and a client will say, "No, I don't want that hardwood floor anymore. I want this." And now we find out it's not available.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost a lot more, so that's going to delay us. So if you make decisions early on, then you have the ability to change your mind, and you're able to shop around and get the best deal.
Plan it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Plan early. Okay. Yeah. I know you are well known and have good reputation in Oakville, good builder. So what qualities should homeowners looking for in a custom home builder?
Good question. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors obviously considered, but
Right.
I think one of the most important factors is experience.
Okay.
And not just overall building experience, but also experience building in your community in terms of where you plan on building. Because if a builder has experience in that neighborhood, they know what the trends are, they know where you should spend your money, how you should spend it. They would give you good advice because they'll know the market there really well. And then they'll also have a really good sense of available trades and materials that are required in that area. Right? So experience is obviously extremely important. And then just, it's like anything, communication style, right?
Sure.
You're going to be spending a lot of time with your builder.
Yeah.
So it's got to be somebody you like, you're going to enjoy working with for over a year.
Yeah.
So how they communicate with you, is there a trust factor? Do you trust them?
Yeah.
How do they handle aftercare? Well, once you move in, what's their aftercare support?
Right.
Are they going to service you well? Do you have confidence that they're going to be there and resolve issues for you?
Yeah.
So these are all factors you should definitely consider.
Okay. Experience, local, have good relationship with all the trades, and communication skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
People
yes.
you like.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and how important is it for the homeowners to check reference and look at the past projects like before hiring someone? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously, building a home is a massive investment, right? So you should go through a thorough decision process in selecting a builder, and references are very important. Absolutely. I wouldn't build a house without, even buying a car. I'm going to ask for people that have the same model and what their experience is with it, because it's an investment, right? So a house is even more of an investment. So references are really important. So I always recommend, ask your builder about the last 3 builds that they've completed or in the process of completing, and then ask them to just connect you with those 3 clients, right? Because don't let the builder select who the references should be. Ask them for specific references. Say, if you're building these 3 homes right now, I want to talk to these 3 clients.
Yeah.
What's the house you finished last year? I want to talk to that client, see how they're, if they've had any issues since they moved in.
Okay.
Because, if you ask a builder for references, they're going to just give you who they think is going to give them the best referral.
Yeah.
But you want an honest answer.
Right.
And the best answer is going to be from people that they've completed, the past few projects.
Yeah, maybe ask the builder what's the past projects you have.
Right.
And random select 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's good, and I think people are obviously going to give you the right feedback on the builder. And, the other factor is if they're a new builder, then it's a little concerning. If they have, a lot of experience in your area, then I'm sure they have a good reputation. There's a reason why they're continuing to have business in that area, right?
True.
Because reputation, at the end of the day, especially as a custom home builder, reputation is extremely important. And if you do a poor job, your word travels very quickly. So
Yeah, it's all about reputation and referral.
absolutely, exactly.
Yeah. And it is important to go to the site to see how the project looks like.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah. So I always encourage anybody that I'm talking to, prospective clients, I'll walk them through my projects that I'm working on. This way they can ask questions, they can see the caliber finishes, they can see how my trades work, they can see my relationship with the trades, how I communicate with them, and then it just gives them an opportunity to kind of see the different stages of the building process as well, right? Because I'll show them a house that in the early stages and then some that we're in the finishing stages. So it's always a good idea to compare the two as well.
Yeah, and you just mentioned communication is really important. As you said, sometimes maybe you play the role as a managed consultant.
Right.
So how the communication skills play a role in this process?
Yeah, obviously it's really important to understand what your client's vision is, right? So you need to be a good listener, right? So you need to digest what their vision is, what they want to accomplish, how they see a certain space.
Yeah.
And then it's your job as a builder to make that a reality, communicate that to your trades and make that a reality, right? And then in doing so, it's just important to, one thing I find really useful is having regular on-site meetings with my clients.
Okay.
Because then it gives them opportunity to ask questions. Gives them an opportunity to understand the process and get educated. And they become a lot more comfortable with the end outcome because they'll see how it started and where it finished.
Set a regular meeting.
So regular meetings, absolutely. And then, because there's always questions that come up, and a lot of times clients will be driving home and then they'll forget to ask you something.
Yeah.
And when you're sitting there and going on site, they'll remember the questions because they'll see it. They'll be like, oh yeah, I need to ask you about this. Why is this wall over here? Why is this like this? Why is piping going through here? And then you can explain.
Yeah.
Right? There's always good reasons for it, but and that's part of a builder's job is educating their clients.
It's a funny thing. So as a realtor, so the number one complaint about a realtor, it's no communication. It's like communication is really important.
Absolutely, yeah, because ultimately you want to be comfortable with everything that happens, right? So if my client isn't happy with something or is anxious or isn't happy with something, then that's going to impact my relationship with them.
Right.
And it's going to impact what they see and how they perceive other things in the future. So it's really important for me to make sure that at every stage that they understand what's going on and be comfortable with that, because then it's going to allow them to make the next set of decisions and so on and so forth.
Yeah.